What is up? How you doing? I'm so glad to be back. I'm so glad to have you here. Today I'm changing format a little bit. I'm going to be talking about, I guess, one of my biggest passions, which is promoting good art. That's what I do. That's what I try to do. So let's get started, right? There were moments in my childhood that hit me really hard, and I realized if I dig back, and what you can do is you can Google right here on these little machines. There was a thing that happened to me when I was young. I remember going to Orchestra Hall in Minneapolis and seeing young people concerts. And I don't know if I saw Bernstein himself, but I remember seeing it on TV. Leonard Bernstein had brought this series to the nation, and it was because of his passion that he wanted to educate young people. He wanted to show them what makes music, kind of take away the boogeyman, take away the mystery, and talk about how it's possible, and kind of made me see that I was able to maybe do this someday.
He writes one note, then he writes another. Well, that's already a sort of melody. It's a two-note melody. Sort of. Then we add another note. Well, it's already a little more melodious, isn't it? But if he then adds a few more, well, we've got Mendelssohn's Wedding March. See how simple it is? Where there's music, there's melody.
What I'm trying to do is a similar thing. Pull away the veil. Show you some of the tricks of the trade that we musicians use. You know, and let's have some fun while we do it. Why not? Look at me. I got my rock shirt on. I got my rock hair. I got my rock guitars on the wall. However, my history goes back into the band program. It goes back into classical music. All kinds. Americana, early Americana. Stephen, what's his name? Camptown ladies sing this. Stephen Foster, thank you. Thank you, brain. Anyways, the greats of all time in music have done their homework. I mean, look at Ray Charles. He can talk about music like nobody.
Beethoven, he did a couple of things I like the Moonlight Sonata, which I thought was beautiful. But I'm more of a Chopin or Sibelius, you know. They did more easy type or sentimental music, you know. Bach, although from a technical point of view, I think he was greatest in the world for making your hands do different things at different times from each other. Yeah. But it always. On my turntable, you really would find sentimental stuff. I like the easygoing, as I told you, the For Lovers Only, and the songs that, not the fast songs, but the slow songs that Sinatra sang, the slow songs that Aretha made some years ago.
One thing about Ray is people might not even know. He was quite an accomplished piano player. He put out a record called The Genius of Ray Charles. It's all instrumental. It's wonderful. I mean, he's right up there. But I'll tell you what. There's another singer you may not know is a phenomenal piano player, and that's Nat King Cole. Nat was one of the groundbreakers on TV. And look at him. One of the most significant pieces of art that happened in last century, let's say, was Fantasia by Walt Disney. People had never heard movies in stereo until Fantasia. Walt and his brother decided they had to install sound systems themselves into these theaters. I think it was 13 city release that they had. It was kind of a road show. So at their own expense, they enhanced those 13 theaters with state-of-the-art audio equipment of the day, just to create the most wonderful musical experience. So all this, because Walt was passionate about this music must be heard and seen. In his mind, he wanted to say, man, this is the greatest stuff ever. This is the coolest. You'll hear me talk about Disney quite a bit because he's just one of my all-time heroes. Come on. His life is amazing. The amount of things he did, it was incredible. I'd say this was a groundbreaking moment in music history, and I just wanted to be noted. I remember the first time I went to New York, just amazed to see this city. New York was the shit. And the very first day when I'm walking down the street in New York, who did I see but a famous face? It was Soupy Sales. His love of jazz was brought to kids my age too. I saw Soupy Sales. He was great.
And you sort of smile coyly, you know.
Here's another genius.
And you say, yes, I will have another glass of tab. That repetition gives a hint of things to come. And a bit of blues, you know.
Helps us understand the music.
Just to show you're not all wishy-washy, you know.
On a mountain in Virginia stands a lonesome.
So many great comedians have used music to create some of their most famous bits.
Girl of mine, her name is June, and
I love how he jumps in. I'm involved. They're obviously city guys, way out west. That's the name of this
for
film.
I know she's waiting there for me 'neath that lone pine.
Well, there's timing involved. There's a tempo to both music and comedy.
Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, on the trail of the lonesome.
And I'm kind of with Ray on this one. I like the Sentimental. Love it. Who doesn't love it? There's a place for it still. It touches our hearts. Sentimentality. It's great. This is awesome. I love the conceit that the conductor has this much power. Of course, it isn't true. You know, you can't just conduct and they do whatever they do. But the premise is great. How Bugs, who's the eternal wise ass, takes over the opera. Just completely takes over. It becomes anarchy. The best. The best. This is when fusion became a word. Fusion became jazz blended with rock and roll, blended with soul. fusion, and there was electronics involved. This is new. I look at these musicians on film now, and I remember being that kid. I was 11 when this came out, and I remember seeing that freedom on their face, that feeling of they're lost in this music. There's this beautiful way they move, the way they look at each other, the way the music felt. See, if you think about it, Stevie Wonder isn't that many steps away from fusion jazz. I'm sure Stevie was a little bit influenced by fusion. Fusion was influenced by Stevie. It was all a big handshake. It was all a big tennis game, back and forth, passing influence back and forth. It was awesome. It was a frisbee game, man. That's what it was. It wasn't tennis, it was frisbee. And me personally, I gotta tell you, this was a pivotal record for me. And because of this record, I met Steve Jordan, and that inspired me to move to New York, which changed my whole life. This was kind of everything of my whole life kind of colliding in one record. It was my rock and roll thing. Keith Richards, man, from the Stones, but he wasn't doing Stonesy kind of stuff. He had these more jazzy guys. He had some other guys. This was very new music to me. It was soul, rock, smart, and powerful. It had that swagger. It had a new thing that rock hadn't heard yet. It had a new thing that R&B and jazz hadn't heard yet. It was all in one record. Love this record. Come on, there's Charlie. I'm going to conclude this whole thing by saying, let's do this, and I'm going to do it myself, which I haven't done in a while. I'm going to sit down and listen to a whole album. You know, a record that was made in an order, you know, at least 10 songs that was put together to be listened to in one sitting. You know, we don't do this anymore. I'm just going to encourage everybody, let's do this. Let's try to do this in the next couple days. Let's sit down, let's carve a little time for just sitting down and listening to music. Just do that. No visual. Just listen. Let's do this. It's going to be cool. So if you like this, please hit like. And if you really like it, hit subscribe. I like that. We'll see you next time. Lots of love.